Hello, dear students. I hope you are all fine and in good health. In this audio presentation, I will discuss few more things regarding discovering Tut. The saga continues. A brief story overview I will give you, or rather, I will explain to you a brief story overview of this chapter. And here also, point wise, I will discuss it. So, point number one is the mummy of King Tut. Now, in respect to this point, I like to explain few lines. As the mummy of King Tut was glided for performing a CT scan, angry winds, tired and dark clouds covered the stars. At the very beginning of the text, you will find description. This sort of descriptions are written in your text at the very beginning of this chapter. His scan was being done to unearth. Actually, unearth means, dear students, to explore that had surrounded his death. Unearth the mysteries that had surrounded his death. Tourists had lined to pay their respects to the mummy, though it is kept 26 feet underground. It's a special tourist attraction. Tut's mummy is a special tourist attraction of the famous Egyptian king Tutankhamun, and made speculations about his untimely death. Still now, historians are making speculations as to how he died, because he was coronated at a very young age, as I told you earlier, and he died also at a very young age. Now, the possibility that has been discussed by the historians was that probably he was murdered. Now I am moving on to the next point, funerary treasures. This is very important because along with his mummy that was inside the coffin, many other rich ornaments and jewelries were also found. And remember, it is given in the text also that the pharaohs during the time of King Tut, they were fabulously wealthy. And since he was the last of his descendant, he was the last of his family line, last of the descendants, so his funeral ceremony was celebrated with lot of pomp and splendor. So let me continue. The mummy was in a very bad state, according to Zai Hawass. Now who is he? Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. King Tut's tomb was first discovered in 1922, that you know by this time, by Howard Carter, and Howard Carter was a very famous British archaeologist. Tut was found buried with numerous funerary treasures in a coffin made of pure gold. I already told you that the pharaohs during the time of King Tut, they were very wealthy, fabulously wealthy. That is the term written in your text. The treasures included precious collars, necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals and sheaths for his fingers and toes. All descriptions are given in your text. These are the important jewelries that are found inside along with his coffin. These treasures are till date the richest royal collections ever found. Till date, it is the richest royal collection ever found. Some everyday items were also kept. Now, what are those everyday items? Like board games, bronze razor, linen undergarments, then cases of food and wine. Why? Because the Egyptians, they believed in afterlife. They strongly believed in afterlife. So, they have also kept things of daily use. This revealed that the ancient Egyptians, I already told you, dear students, see, it is written here, that the ancient Egyptians believed in the idea of rebirth or afterlife, or we can say in other words, resurrection, and hoped that to take their riches with them. That is the reason, apart from giving those precious jewelries, clothes, bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine are also been given, because the Egyptians, they believed in resurrection process, they believed in afterlife. Now, dear students, I am moving on to the third point. Carter's investigations and problems. What are the problems that was faced by Howard Carter when he went on with his investigation related with the tomb of King Tut? Remember, it was discovered in 1922, but Carter started his explorations some few years back, And few years of futile searching, or after few years of futile searching, finally in the year 1922, he discovered King Tut's tomb. So Carter investigated the three nested coffins. In the first, he found garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers. These are all flowers. This gave vague evidence that the death might have taken place in the month of March or April, because that was the time of the blooming of those flowers. Now, Carter faced difficulty in extracting the mummy of King Tut out of the coffin because of the ritual resins that I already discussed in one of my audio presentation. The ritual resins had hardened, resulting in cementing of Tut to the bottom of the solid gold coffin. That was the reason Tut's body was already cemented in the solid gold coffin, and it was very difficult to take it out. Though Carter unsuccessfully tried to use the rays of the scorching heat of the sun, but it was also not possible. Still, it was not possible to take out the body from the coffin because of the chemical substance which was attached with it, that is known as the ritual resins. There was no other way left to separate the mummy from the adornments than to chisel it away, and there was no other option. The final option left to them is that they have used hammer and chisel. Otherwise, it was very difficult to take out the body from the coffin. Its head had to be removed, and not only the head, the major joints in the body are also removed or detached. Actually, detached means to remove. The only ground for Carter to defend himself for chiseling Tut was that thieves would have ripped the body apart to rob the gold if he had not chiseled it. That means later in his defense he told to the Egyptian authority members that I had no other option, I had to chisel it. Otherwise, the tomb raiders or the thieves who already had looted 50% of the gold jewelries, they would have looted the remaining ones also. So that was the reason he actually chiseled it. And this is what he said in his defense. Now, another important revelation was there. And what is that? As the archaeology changed with the advent of time, it focused more on details of life and mysteries of death than on treasures. Previously, archaeology depended more on treasures, but modern archaeology depends more on life and the mysterious death of an emperor or a king rather than on treasure. Now, 40 years after Carter's discovery in 1968, another amazing fact was revealed. And what was that? X-ray was done, and in that X-ray, breastbone and front ribs of the mummy were found missing. That was also a very strange revelation, we can say. Now, dear students, some family history of King Tut. Amenhotep III, Tut's grandfather, ruled for almost 4 decades. And during the time of Tut's grandfather, the people were very happy and they used to abide and respect the king. And it was said to be the golden age of their dynasty. But his son, that is Tut's father, Amenhotep IV, now his rule was full of chaos and anarchy because he made some drastic and unpleasant changes, and he was not a favorite king of the people. What sort of changes he did? He promoted the worship of Athens, the sun disk, and changed his name to Akhenaten. Not only that, he even transferred the religious capital from Thebes to the new city of Amarna. Not only that, he made some more drastic changes. He destroyed the temples of Amun. And remember, dear students, you know by this time Amun is a major god of Egypt. After his demise, a mysterious ruler by the name of Menkaure reigned for a brief time, and after that it was King Tut who was coronated. And remember what his father destroyed, he restored everything. See, it is written here, he restored the old order destroyed by his predecessors. Particularly, he brought some sort of discipline among his people. He restored the old order in his country, because during the reign of his father there was chaos. So he brought peace and solidarity in his empire and restored the old ways once again. But remember one thing, dear students, he ruled for only 9 years. Now I am moving on to another important point, the death of King Tut. Now he is known as King Tut and he died as a teenage pharaoh. And remember, his death was actually, it was one of the greatest one in the history of Egypt because he was the last of his dynasty. So with lot of pomp and splendor, his death or funeral ceremony was being conducted. But his unexpected demise was a big event, and two biggest questions are still unanswered. Number one, how did he die? And number two, how old was he at the time of his death? These two are the $1,000,000 questions, dear students. Still, historians are searching. They haven't got a correct answer to this. One final point, the CT scan. I told you that 80 years later, more or less, in 2005, more than 80 years in terms of when Carter discovered it, and almost 3,300 years after the death of King Tut. King Tut's mummy became one of the first mummies to undergo a CT scan. This is a very important trivia, very important part also. Please remember that his mummy was the first one to undergo a CT scan. So in death as in life, he moved regally. Regally means in a very royal fashion, in a royal manner, ahead of his countrymen. So in death as well as in life, he is equally famous. The CT scan process was led by Zai Hawass and done with a portable CT scan machine. The scan came up with new clues about his life and death. New points or new hints we got about his life and death. It provided precise data. Dear students, precise means accurate data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of King Tut. But still, his death is shrouded in mystery. Now, as you know, that sand entered the cooler fan of the CT machine and so it stopped functioning. Later, two plastic fans were used to complete the scanning process. King Tut's body was examined and it showed a grey head, neck vertebrae. All these things are 3D images. A hand, and also on the computer screen several images of the rib cage and transection of the skull were also seen. Now after collecting all those data, it was then finally again the pharaoh was placed 26 feet underground, and it was a huge relief for Zai Hawass because he was in charge of the entire scanning process. Now after their observation, when they left, the wind had stopped. This is the last climax scene from the chapter, and the surrounding became totally quiet. We call it deathly silence also. In the sky just above the entrance to Tut's tomb stood Orion. Orion is actually the constellation galaxy of stars, we can say, and also called by the Egyptian as the soul of Osiris. And soul of Osiris, the god of afterlife, watching and protecting over the boy king. Boy king means the boy pharaoh, that is King Tut. So dear students, these are the 7 points I have discussed. This is more or less the story overview. I am very hopeful you will listen to this audio presentation, and if there is any doubt, any problem, don't hesitate, let me know. I will try to the best of my abilities to clear all your doubts and confusions. Thank you students. Thank you all.